Finally back with another draft profile video. Excited to be back for this one because we got a really good player today. We're talking about Northwestern's Caleb Tiernan, the offensive tackle. So let's get right into it. So this past week I was at the College Gridiron Showcase, which was pretty darn awesome. Got to meet a lot of players there, to see a lot of players in person. But now we're back to this. We're back to these draft profile videos. And today we're talking about a player that is 6'6", also weighing 325 pounds, could have some of the mass that could translate to guard flexibility in the NFL. I tend to view him more as a pure offensive tackle coming out of this year's draft, but I do think there's some upside for flexibility. Going back to his redshirt freshman season when he started 5 games at right tackle, appeared in 11. Since that time, he's been the full-time starter for Northwestern at the left tackle spot. Been incredibly reliable this past season. 830 snaps played on the offense line at the left tackle position, only allowing 6 hurries on the season, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Graded out pretty well as a run blocker as well, according to PFF. And this is also a high school athlete that was a multi-sport athlete, specifically football and basketball. And I think you see that with his footwork. You see it with his body control. He has a lot of the balance attributes that you would hope for an offensive lineman. That's going to translate really well for him into the NFL. So with that said, let's jump right into it. I want to start with this pass protection first because this is where it all starts. And this is a big reason I like him at offensive tackle because he is very smooth in that kick step. There's no false movement to it. He covers very good depth immediately off the ball. It's hard to get that upfield step on him immediately, and he can set differently off the line of scrimmage as well due to some of that athleticism, ability to cover some depth, straight vertical sets. You can get him on more 45-degree angles. You can have him short set. He can jump set a bit as well, though there's some inconsistencies there, but he really can set any way that you want him to. He's got fast feet. They stay under his pads when he's throwing jabs. We saw that against Oregon. He played some great competition this past year in the Big Ten on the edge, and I thought he handled himself really well in most of those performances, most of those reps. A fluid mover through engagement around the arc, kind of stay connected, stay sustained, working some of those blocks as well. To me, he just feels to stall out reps incredibly early with a punch and a latch and kind of settling guys down immediately, setting down with an initial anchor. I think that's part of the challenge here for going to guard is some of the winning with quickness and winning immediately and kind of stonewalling blocks initially. That would be a work in progress, I think, if you kicked him inside. But he's got plenty of quickness to protect the arc. He stays leveraged when he's working in his pass set, stays leveraged upfield. That way he doesn't give up that inside counter. And this is where his footwork, to me, tends to shine. You know, you get him on some of those vertical sets, 2 steps into the kick slide, he can redirect inside, and you see a lot of the balance, and you see the footwork where he's not oversetting his footwork and he stays patient with his feet. He's very reactive in a short area to recover as well. He's fluid, quick out of his stance when he's working into jump sets, can cover pretty good depth as well, gets into a spot quickly. I think his timing off the ball is fairly consistent as well. He's got excellent body control for outside in crossover moves and the footwork to slide and redirect and trust his feet to win in those spots. We saw that against Penn State specifically. Now, in terms of some of that anchor ability, I'm a little bit lower on this. I think he shows the footwork to typically stay in front of guys. I just think he gives up too much ground at this time. He's got a firm foundation for quick stoutness, especially when he's attacking blocks more often. You'll really see this through the upper body. You'll see it as a run blocker as well. And he's got very ready hands. Ready hands are constantly holstered. They're ready to stab. Attacks opportunities when the chest opens up from pass rushers. To me, though, his hands aren't incredibly fast, and too often you'll see defenders that are able to kind of just swipe him off or wall him off, and he can't get that initial entry the way that he wants to. And also, resetting his hands probably needs to improve as well, especially in some of those pass sets so he doesn't get shielded off, allowing defenders to continue to work downhill and continue to eat up airspace on him specifically. His feet don't anchor incredibly well right now for me in sliding protection, and he allows a second effort edge wins, or you'll see this kind of when he's sealing on the backside of pass pro. He just kind of gives up angles to his shoulders, lets guys get upfield. It's the same thing for slide protection, just oversetting too much in those spots, giving up an inside edge, giving up positioning inside. He recovers well. He can get back in position. He can move his feet to kind of wall you out of the play. With that much space and that much range from the tackle position, it tends to lead to the quarterback gets spilled in those spots, and I think that's where you'll see some of the hurries pop up there specifically. I just don't think he sets his footwork consistently for that initial anchor, specifically if he's not attacking his blocks right off the line of scrimmage, and that allows him to give up ground. But he's got wide footwork to catch and anchor on the walk back, so as it's working, he continues to work his feet, and it's very smooth and fluid. Steps down to give support really well. That's where you see some pop, some real explosion. He plays with really nice knee bend consistently in what he does. I think his flexibility is an incredibly underrated element of his game for a guy at his height. He doesn't play super tall consistently. Sometimes I think he struggles a little bit with leverage as a run blocker, but in terms of playing low through pass sets, that's incredibly consistent. He plenty of upper body strength when he does step down to give some support, and he's got pretty fast reactive movements too, that sort of awareness, but he continues to work with a strong inside hand punch, strong base to sustain, I just think he's a bit predictable with his hands. I think he's a bit predictable when he's going to hand fight. It allows rushers to kind of stay prepared for him, and he doesn't throw guys off balance consistently. He's always ready to go, but I don't think he throws guys off with his approach consistently at this point. But his feet continue to work. He continues to work in front of late counters. He can redirect. He can recover. He's got tons of hip flexibility, which is incredibly noticeable if he gets beat around the arc or they get a step where he can drop his hips, get back in a position to ride him out of the pocket, and that's where his hand placement shows up as good when he gets on your hip and he rides you directly out of the pocket. I think his feet slow a touch right now when he's attempting to get that inside connection, and that shows up working the arc when he doesn't get a clean initial stab, when they do shield him off and he's trying to rework and his feet tend to stall a bit, and that gives up the opportunity for him to give up the top of the rush and be a little bit soft. He sets wide on kind of those short setting anchors. He gets his feet out wide, plays with good bend, and initially he absorbs contact pretty well in those spots as well. I just don't think he has the initial sink consistently and anchor specifically from the lower body to stonewall reps as early as you would like, especially the more he would be kicked inside. But plus recovery agility, does overset, or if his base gets skinny to kick himself back out. His feet don't really stall through a true mirror when he's just trying to redirect and trust his feet to move and he's not looking for that hand placement. And when he shows that patience, he can really redirect the footwork to stay connected through a jolt from defenders. Like when they get into his chest and knock him back, he's got the footwork to stay right on top of those and not allow guys to get around him in those spots. His flexibility is there. You'll see him working with stunts. There's a ton of flexibility just in the lower body, the fluidity to his game. I just think that he gives up too much ground. When he does open his hips on the outside, he gives up too much ground. He allows the pocket to become soft, and specifically he allows himself to kind of squeeze that horseshoe back to the quarterback, and that's a bit of a problem. He allows the pocket to squeeze, and he needs to be a little bit more sturdy to kind of hold guys out and keep them away from the pocket. And I think at tackle, he tends to give up a little bit too much of that on the outside, which could lead to some collapsing pockets more often than you would hope for and more direct line paths to the quarterback more often than you would hope for as well. Now, as a run blocker, I'm not as high here as I am as him as a pass protector, but he can do a lot of good as a run blocker. I think there's some potential slight limitations in what you want to actually ask him to do. Definitely think in the right scheme, there's going to be consistency here. Is he going to be a people mover? We'll see, but he's going to be consistent. He's got that redirecting knee bend. I think he lacks a little bit of short area twitch, which again gives me some pause for playing the guard position. Just short area twitch, closing airspace in a hurry. I think he gets off the ball well, and he plays with good angles off the ball, but I don't think the twitch is outstanding. And specifically, you'll see this when he's working wide zone, when he's got more zone blocks that are much more quick hitters, or at the same time when he's dealing with like slants from a DN stepping into gaps. I don't think he has the great closing twitch to kind of shut those things down before they get started, but very flexible. You'll see it at the second level. He redirects well. He's smooth. You'll see it out in space on screens. He redirects really well. A lot of ankle bend and knee flexion, and you watch, you're like, that's really smooth. I don't think his acceleration's fantastic out there, but he really can change direction with balance, and that's pretty impressive where his base can get skinny and he can redirect. His lateral depth that he covers as well can force an outside and extra step. It can force an extra step because I don't think it's great at this time. And I also think the leverage that he creates downhill is a little bit closer to average. You don't constantly get the drive and downhill blocks that you would hope for a guy with his size. You don't get that consistent walk back when he's trying to create that drive. It may be a bit limited, but he does fit well. Like a duo scheme, I think he'd fit well to the block. He'd play tight to the hip. I think he'd get in a pretty good spot to sustain the block, but I don't know how much actual knockback you would consistently get there outside of getting it from the guard. So that could lead to some issues, and it does give him some issues as well when he's trying to fit into combo blocks. He slides up to kind of shoulders when he's trying to create drive. When his leverage doesn't stay consistent, it kind of tries to ride up on him, and he ends up getting up on the shoulders. But I think the best element is his angles, and then he plays very square into these blocks. He climbs square, and again, when he's working some of these outside rush attacks, he allows himself to play beyond the line of scrimmage. Biggest problem is you get flashes of his momentum knocking him over his toes. When his momentum falls forward, when he's trying to get downhill, and he blows blocks, and you saw that against Michigan when he kind of falls over himself a little bit there. But he seals out edge defenders really well. I think he creates great hinge block. The positioning is really strong there. His lateral quickness to me is just closer to average, especially when he has to cover a lot of depth. He gets positioned well, and he has some redirecting ability to seal. He has the core strength to deal with it, but I don't think right now he has the best athleticism for some of those wider, quicker hitters. However, he does have a hulking presence, and you can feel it. Like, there's a lot of pop in the upper body. There's a lot of force at the point of attack. Linebackers feel it constantly. He's got snapping hips that work on the backside to seal blocks. He's got that edge-setting hinge block ability, which is really strong. The hand placement's good, the shoulder placement, and then also being able to roll his trips to those spots. He's got legitimate core strengths. He launches his hips into that knockback entry. His footwork also, to me, tends to match his hand placement. He's typically well-connected on a string with what his plan is as a run blocker. When he's on the front side of downhill blocks or zone blocks, that's where you see success. That's where you see him kind of create some of that snowball momentum working downhill. Got sustaining body control. I think it's one of the best elements as run blockers. He sustains blocks really well because he doesn't play backwards. He's always tends to play forward. And if you get him in a scheme where he doesn't have to work incredibly wide, I think you can allow him to play forward, and he's going to have some success because he fits consistently. He's very good getting off the ball, fitting into setting the edge. I think his feet gather really quickly on the backside of zone plays. He just allows defenders to get that first punch too often. Similar to pass pro, he allows defenders in his chest too often, and he allows them to kind of dictate the rep a little bit too consistently at times. I think that needs some work to not allow that first punch. And then again, replacing his hands also needs work. When he doesn't get that initial punch or they do drop into his chest, how is he going to replace his hands? How is he going to get his hands underneath? Sometimes it doesn't feel like he has a great way to get that leverage and actually get underneath your pads and drive you back. Instead, he doesn't really find it. He's just kind of positioning himself. He's more placement blocking than he actually is moving people off the ball when they initially get up on his chest and hit him immediately off the line of scrimmage. That's going to need some work. Finding that in early latch is going to need some work. But he's got plenty of flexibility to strain with blocks, continue to stay connected. Wide base, he redirects well in space. He doesn't have elite speed in space, but he has good redirectability. And I think he's got really impressive body control. The way that he can change pace and kind of speed up, slow down to the next level, run around in space. Great awareness, I think, on screens as well. He's got some ability to him. To me, overall, this is a player with not a lot of glaring weaknesses. I don't know how many areas he's great in. I think his footwork has that upside. I think that his sustainability has an upside. And I think his body control is in a really good spot. His reactive athleticism is good. I don't think he's a freaky athlete, but I think it's good. I think it's more about the flexibility. That's really impressive. And his play strength to me right now is close to above average. I think it's in a pretty good spot. A lot of the pop feels from the upper body. If he could create a little more leverage, I think it'd be better. And if he could set a quicker anchor, I think it'd be better as well. But it's not in a bad spot at all. I like his pass pro with touch more. I like his run blocking, but I like both. I think he's good in both categories. A little bit better as a pass protector. Overall, to me, the range is in a good spot. There could be position flexibility. I think you want him more on inside zone fits, maybe some outside, especially on the front side. Gap scheme could be a little bit questionable. I think he's got the fluidity to probably pull a bit, but gap scheme will be much more about positioning than actually, I think, taking people out of plays and kind of overwhelming them. That could be there, except for slanting and having to cover a ton of ground could be a problem immediately off the ball. So I like him more of those inside-outside zone schemes. And in pass pro, I think there's a ton to be excited about potential here with true flexibility in that regard as a pass protector from inside-outside. Caleb Tiernan, we'll see where he goes. I ended up with a 6.23 grade, one of the higher graded players that we've done to this point. I think he's a really good player. And this is a player that I think has a chance to get round one. I think it's on the table that he gets round one. Don't know that he will, but I think he's got the chance to do so. So with that, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.